Hello and welcome. I've just finished Trails of Cold Steel 3 and I'm very excited to talk about it, but I should warn you. Obviously, there will be spoilers in this video. If you have not yet played any of the other Trails games, know that this will have spoilers for Trails in the Sky, Trails from Zero, Trails to Azure, and Trails of Cold Steel 1, 2, and 3, of course. With all that said, though, I firmly recommend this game. It's one of my favorites. I like it more than both the Cold Steel games, and than Sky FC and Zero, but I still like Sky FC and Azure more myself. I might like this one more than the Sky the Third too. I need some more time to let it settle, but I really enjoyed Cold Steel 3. So let's get into the stuff, right? Let's get into spoilers. Um, Honestly, man, Cold Steel 3 is two different games, and so it's tough to talk about both of them at the same time, but by the end of the game, it has married them in together, so I do want to try. Cold Steel 3 is one game in that it is the introduction to a new Class 7, the introduction to a Thor's Branch campus, the introduction to a bunch of new characters that are being introduced to this world. That also includes the whole new, basically new, there are some returning characters, but Michael Irving being brand new and the entirety of the student class for Thor's Branch campus, except for Tita, being brand new characters that we've never met before, that honestly all left a really good impact. In a lot of ways, I think Cold Steel 3 succeeds more at doing the school aspect than Cold Steel 1 and 2 did, even though I think, well, than 1 for sure, because 2 was less of that, than Cold Steel 1 did, mostly because Cold Steel 1 had a very big job on its hands. It wasn't just introducing us to the characters, it was also introducing us to all of Erebonia, basically. Whereas Cold Steel 3 doesn't have to worry about that. And so we kind of just have the town of Leaves and the students, and we're given time with each of them. And I think, just for the most part, just about all of them are really good. Uh, Gustav and Pablo, I feel like we could have got a little bit more with, but I really enjoyed all of them. And, the interactions between those two and Valerie are really good. I cannot, as much as I love this series, I cannot just rattle off names from CS1's students. Obviously, the ones that you spend more time with, like Monk and Vivi and Mint, sure, no problem. I got those. But, like, I can't remember who was hanging out with Patrick High Arms, and I can't remember a lot of the other classmates, Even though we went and gathered them all up in CS2. I remember Alan, of course, because Alan's great. And then Becky and Hugo, but we'll get into that. But I really found the branch campus students to be super, super memorable. I really like Jessica and everything going on with her little training arc. Maya is really cool. I like Stark and Sydney, Kyrie. It's just a really fun class of characters. And I think what makes it so fun, I meant to say cast there, but we're going to move on. I think what makes it so fun is that you are spending time not just getting to know these characters, but being there for them as their teacher. Because in this game, you are a teacher at the school instead of a student at the school. And it really is crazy how much of a difference that makes in the interactions you have with the students. And in that first game slot, I think that the introduction to this new cast is really, really good. And I think that the school element is handled really well, as you're a teacher that's trying to make sure all your students are doing well, and they all have different things they struggle with, and they all have different stuff that they're really having a hard time with. But you work through it with them and you help them because that's your job. And you care about these kids. And you're doing that alongside Michael Irving, who I think is a great character. You're doing that alongside Toa Herschel, who I think is a great character. You're doing that alongside Professor Schmidt, which is a great pull, and Randy Orlando. You get Randy the whole game. You don't get Randy playable, which is my biggest complaint with CS3, I think. But you get Randy the whole game. And the circumstances between him and Reen are really cool and interesting. With, hey, this is the guy that helped, this is the guy that fought against Lloyd, and this is the guy that helped take over Crossbell. But also, he's kind of got his own situation going on, and I see what he's dealing with, and he's not a bad guy. And I really enjoyed Reen and Randy's friendship that blossomed over the course of this game. It's really good. You have Leaves itself, which is really fun. Jingo shows up, Monk shows up, Rosine shows up, of course, because Rosine and the Petitioner, Thomas. Oh man, there's so much to talk about. So much to talk about. But this first half of, and I say first half not as in the first half of the game, but as in the first half of the 2 games that Trails of Cold Steel 3 is. And in that first half, you have so much time. It's a very long game. You have so much time dedicated to the new students and the new campus and everything going on there. You learn a new card game called Vantage Masters that I had a lot of fun with, honestly. It was really cool, and I spent a lot of time with it. You have the new version of the fishing minigame, which is really, really solid, and you still have tasks that you have to do. You have Einhell Keep instead of the old schoolhouse. And so, in that way, I think, and I know I haven't talked about the new Class 7 at all yet. I'm going to get to them. I think that it is extremely successful in that regard. I could play just that game and be very happy with it because I think it's really good. Then you have the other half of what Cold Steel 3 is, which is the continuation of the story of Class 7. The continuation of Reen's story along with all of the other previous members of Class 7. Their attempts to recover from the loss of Crow. Their attempts to make things right and deal with the distance and deal with what it means to be an adult while still trying to keep up with their friends while having this shadow looming over them that is Gileath Osborne. And it's really good. And the way those 2 aspects are married together in Cold Steel 3 is maybe my favorite thing about this game, because you have this constant back and forth of Arena as the teacher, being the instructor, doing what he's supposed to be doing, and then anytime he looks at the 50 Mira coin on the desk, or anytime his phone rings, or anytime somebody brings up Crow, even in a roundabout way, just from the despair and the joy that he has to like fight with, it's really good. And it goes a long way to characterize Reen in a way that CS1 and CS2 did a little bit. You get where Reen's coming from, but CS3 really made me feel for Reen in a lot of ways like that moment at the end of CS2. I have some more stuff I want to say about Crow and Reen and everything there too, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But I really do think that, because again, this game is long, I really do think that it's great the way it married together those 2 so that it slowly ramps up that, hey, Class 7's coming back together again. Don't worry about it. We made a promise. It's going to all work out. And well, will it all work out? Because everybody's getting pulled in all these different directions. Spoilers, it does, but not quite the way they want it to. I mean, obviously Crow's not there, but then also some bad things have happened by that point. So, man, do I talk about story? Do I talk about characters? There's so much to talk about here. I will say real quick on combat, I like Cold Steel 3 combat a lot. I think the addition of the orders is really just what this combat system needed, because it gives you EP to play around with for arts. It gives you CP to play around with for crafts. It gives you BP to play around with for your battle orders. And then, of course, you have your regular attacks. You have items. You have the ability to switch in other characters. You have the links that give you different abilities there. I think it all culminates really well, and I like this battle system a lot. Now, granted, I broke it pretty easily. Honestly, I won't deny that at all. I broke it really easily. I pumped everything into Reen's strength and CP, and then later on you get a quartz that lets you recover CP when you are on the field, which means that Reen could just always use a 200 power S-craft, which, you know, and then I maxed out Kurt's evasion so that he just had like 95% evasion and you couldn't hit him. And then when he hit you back for the counter, it had like 600 times the damage. So I broke it pretty early, but I kind of enjoyed that I could. It reminded me a lot of getting to play around with the Zero and Azure systems and just getting to break the game because I chose to, which I think was nice because I could always just switch those off if I wanted serious battles. But I think that this is a very, very good combat system, and I think the combat is very nice. I think the new characters feel good in combat. The returning characters feel really good. The only complaint I have with the combat system is with Gaius. where for the vast majority of the game, he does not have an S-Craft. So even when he joins you, he just doesn't have it. He gets it later, and it's story-tied. It makes sense. But I kind of would have liked him to just have the previous S-Craft still, and then he just gains a new one. That's something that I feel like the characters have kind of lost out on as the series has progressed, because in the older games, you could get multiple S-Crafts. In the new games, your S-Craft kind of just gets upgraded. But I do kind of miss having all those crafts because they were unique to the characters, you know? But battle system, very, very solid. So let's talk story. We start in media res again, and I kind of wish we didn't, because I got introduced to everybody that was in the new Class 7 immediately. I got a feel for how they are and how they feel about Reen, which is fine. But it spoils the fact that Ash and Musei are even going to be in Class 7. And so when they're not, you're like, okay, well, now I'm just waiting for them to be there, because I already know they will be because of the in media res start to this. And I feel like it's just a thing that they do now, so you get a taste of combat early and get a taste of seeing cool stuff in the cutscenes instead of just letting me play. And I think I would have preferred that more here, because I knew way ahead of time that stuff was going to go bad there at the fort, you know? And so I kind of wish I didn't know that, but at the same time, it's not that big of a deal. I like the new Class 7 a lot, story-wise. I think that each of them gets their chances to shine. Each of them gets to be really cool. I love Kurt. Kurt is such a cool character to me. Stuck in the shadow of the other Vanders, which is a huge shadow. Doesn't have the strength to be able to wield a greatsword like they do. And so he goes with the Vander dual blade style instead. And he's constantly comparing himself to all of these insanely strong swordspeople that are around him. I mean, when the principal of your school is Aurelia Le Guin, that's already a huge shadow you have to try and catch up to, right? But then your instructor is the Ashen Chevalier. And it just, like, all that pressure's a lot on top of what he's dealing with Prince Cedric. And I really like Kurt. By the end of the game, Kurt had become maybe my favorite out of Class 7. No, that's not fair, because Altina. But we'll get to Altina. I like Yuna a lot as well. I understand why some people don't. She can't go more than a couple sentences without saying crossbell. But I really do like Yuna. She's in an impossible situation at the start of this game where she's being taught by the person that helped conquer crossbell. And, of course, as you get the whole story of how Reen saved her and everything there, it's really good. It's really solid. I think that in the Crossbell chapter, which, I'll get to the chapters in a minute, because I got to talk about that Crossbell chapter. Yuna has one of the best moments, which is give back our Crossbell. I really like that moment. I like Musei. I'm going to talk about Altina last in the new class. I like Musei a lot, but Musei is probably my least favorite of the new Class 7. I think that there's a lot of mysteries with her, and not all of them are solved by the end of this game like they are with the other characters. But I still think Musei is a really fun addition to the team. I don't love her infatuation with Reed. It makes sense, and it might just be a ploy. And the moment when she tries to, like, trick him into kissing her, really didn't like that moment. Good thing that Reed was on his toes. But that could also be because, my Reen is with Laura. I'm sorry. That's just how it works. But no, I did like Musei a lot. She was fun. I love Ash Carbide. I absolutely love Ash Carbide. You find out that he's also from Hamel, from Hamel. You got different pronunciations in a couple spots with the English localization, but he's also from Hamel. And I need to choose one. I'm gonna say Hamel from now on, because that's what the Emperor says. He's also from Hamel. And while at one point I could see people being upset because, hey, that's where Joshua and Luve were from, and they're special. You can't just be like them. At the same time, I don't have a problem with there being another person that survived the Hamel destruction, because I really feel like those Jaegers probably felt bad about slaughtering children. And we're going to get into the stuff with the curse in a little bit, but yeah, I don't have a problem at all with there being another survivor from Hamel. And then Altina, man. Altina's great. I love Altina. Altina just, like, she's so precious, and I just wanted, it's the Ren, it's the Kia, it's the Altina situation. You're my daughter now. you're Reed's daughter now, but because I'm playing Reed, you're my daughter now, and I'm gonna protect you. In a way that I think really works. I feel like that might have been on purpose, like the one with Kia, right? But it definitely worked on me. I absolutely adore Altina, and I was hard pressed not to just try and yell at Reen to slaughter Osborne when I found out that he had kidnapped her. It just, oh. This series knows what it's doing with making you care about characters, and especially with the child characters. Although Altina's not a child per se, any more than Ren was or Kia was, but I think Kia is the youngest of the three. We're focused here. Come on, focus in. Cold Steel 3. I'm very excited to get to the next game. If you can't tell, I'm literally like just bouncing in my chair because this game ends on a massive cliffhanger. Since we're talking characters, let's talk Old Class 7. I think everybody in Old Class 7 got some really nice time to shine here. Reen has less voice lines in this version of the game than he did in Cold Steel 1 and 2. A lot of his dialogue isn't voiced, but when it counts, the voice actor's there, and Sean Chiplock's doing a great job again. Because, again, I played this in English. I think that Elisa got some really cool moments. I still don't super love her as a character, but I think that some of the moments that came through here with her and Sharon and the stuff with her dad is really, really good, and I think they did a good job with her here. Elliot, of course, just grew even better. There's a moment where Elliot is like, well, if the government doesn't have your back, we'll have to. For, like, basically put his foot down and was like, we'll fight the government if we have to. It's like, yeah, CS1 Elliot would never have said that, right? That's a really good moment. Fee is just better than ever. Fee is incredible. Laura, still great. Laura's amazing. Emma is great. Emma is great in this game. Emma comes so far in this game. Gaius is incredible in this game. The reveal that he's a Dominion is really, really cool. It makes perfect sense. I mean, we've had a Dominion in the main cast in each of the trilogies so far. So it only makes sense for him to be here, you know, and to be a Dominion. I like it a lot. I think the whole story with him is really good. Machias gets some really good stuff in this game, being part of the Inspectorate and everything happening there. I think that of all of them, Millium and Eustace get the best from the Old Class 7, just because Eustace gets more time to shine with the stuff with his brother and with Millium. And then Millium is the big sister to Altina. You know, Millium has that incredible moment early on where she's like, well, this is Tilly and Sammy then, you know? And so when you get to the end, which we'll talk about in a little bit, Millium has one of the most powerful moments in this leg of the story, you know? Yeah, we'll talk about Millium in a little bit. But I really love the way that she had come into her own, because I feel like she got less time than some of the others in 2. So her getting to shine here in 3 is really good. So let's talk story, because I haven't talked about Reen really at all, but I mean, Reen is just, he's Reen, you know, he's broke up about the stuff with Crow. He's doing his best to keep moving forward, to keep carrying on the path that Crow would have wanted him to take. And it's tough on him, and he's carrying that weight very obviously, but he's doing his best, you know, and I still really like Reen. Like I said, I think Reen comes into his own in this game in a really good way, because you get to see that side of him that's also like, yeah, I've always been the one that tells everybody to depend on me, but I have to let others do their thing too. I have to depend on them as well, which is really good. I think the first chapter is really solid. It's mainly an introductory chapter, right? You get Einhell Keep and exploring that, and you get some really fun stuff there. There's not really much I want to say about the first chapter, because again, I think it's mostly an introduction, right? You get to meet some more of the enemies. You get to meet Laura. Shows up real early on to remind everybody that she's Reen's love interest, because I decided so. I have nothing against you people that are pairing him with Toa or Emma or Elisa, because all of that makes sense to me, and I don't blame you. But it's Laura, and so yeah, that first chapter is really solid. It's a good reintroduction. It's a good introduction for these other characters, and you get to go to Hummel, which is probably the most standout moment of. I guess the Jaeger King showing up again is a really big moment, but there's a lot that happens in this game, and I can't talk about all of it. I guess I could, but we'd be here for like 2 hours. I think the Hummel moment is really solid. It's where you first get to see the stuff with Michael Irving and the way that he is changing as he's spending more time with Class 7 and the rest of the branch campus. And you also get that really solid moment where it starts playing a remixed version of the Hummel music from Sky SC, which that's really good. Yeah, like that a lot. That was a tearjerker for me. Chapter 2 is also really good. I love the crossbell stuff. It's really solid. I think that the best parts of that to me are still getting to run around crossbell, and then that final big push at the end with Give Back Our Crossbell when you learn about the birdcage. And you, if you've played those games, are a fan of the SSS as well, I would assume. And so then when you find out that their hands are tied and there's nothing they can do, you have to step in for them. It's a really powerful moment. And you get that exchange of Randy being like, Reen, please help us. In much the same way that Joshua and Estelle were like, Lloyd, please help us with Ren. And it's really nice just to see the torch passed on to Reen and Class 7. Chapter 3 was good too. I like Chapter 3 a lot. I think the stuff with Musei there is solid. I wish we got a little bit more time with it. And the stuff with Ash there is great. The stuff with his family. But it was a fun chapter. Out of all of them, I think it might be my least favorite of the chapters, but not because like nothing important happens. I mean, the end of that chapter is one of the biggest moments in this game, which is the Georg reveal with Angelica, where George is revealed to be working for the gnomes. Crow's body has been exhumed, and Crow's not dead. And I have thoughts about that as well, but we'll talk about that after we get through with the story recap. Blew me away. I tweeted out at the time something of like one cutscene spins the entire world on its head. And it does. It really does. The reveal of the gnomes and everything going on there. It's crazy. And George, man. Oh, Georg. He tries to attack Tola later. That's not okay. Yeah, chapter 3 was good. I just don't think it was quite like as good as chapter 2 and 1. And then chapter 4 just blows everything out of the park. The hunt for the Calvardian spies, as you have all of Class 7 that is gathered up together again. It's really, really good. I love that chapter. If not for the final chapter, it would probably be my favorite, but I really like it. I think that everything there, because again, this game's really long. It took me a long time to get to this point. I think that everything there is the payoff in a lot of ways for what's been building up over the course of the game. You get the rest of Ash's backstory, basically. You don't get the final part until the final chapter. I guess it is chapter 4, because you get the moment where he shoots the Emperor. You get some great moments with Osborne where he sets the stage. You get Reen asking questions, getting answers. You get the waltz. You get the hunt through the sewers. It's a really, really good chapter with a big focus on, hey, by this point, Class 7 is Class 7. Not old Class 7, new Class 7. We are all Class 7. And I think that's really, really good. I liked all of that a lot. Mainly because, like, yeah, these newbies, they're not as strong as the old Class 7, right? But the heart is there. They want to be. And I think that's where, over the course of this game, you get some of the best Reen moments, which are him having to choose to let them do what they're doing, to let them help, to bring these students with him, because he can't do everything alone. And the way that the students endear to him and he endears to them, it's just really refreshing. It's really cool. I like it a lot. You can really feel it in that final chapter when Reen has lost control of himself and they are calling out to Instructor. You can feel that in the delivery, and it's really good. Final chapter. Ouroboros, the Black Workshop, and the Chancellor team up to complete the Phantasmal Blaze plan. All their enemies are together, so Class 7 has to go. But before they can make a move, things fall apart. And some things happen a little bit earlier, right? The Emperor gets shot, Ash is carried away under the pretense of being a Calvardian spy. Um, then you get this incredible sequence of just a big rush, basically, of we got to get through the city, we got to get to the Corel Imperial Villa, we have to get over there and we have to save Altina because she went to what was supposed to be an Ironbloods meeting and she hasn't come back, and Millium called and can't find her. Find out that Osborne has taken her. And so you go. Class 7 heads out, except for Ash and Altina. And along the way, you get helped by Josette, Kapua, and Jingo, and you get helped by a couple of different people as well, General Craig, and it's a really fun sequence of fighting off the Magic Knights and the Cryptids to be able to get to. I haven't even talked about Zora Grugra. I don't super care about the Dark Dragon right now. That whole thing is cool. The history is all cool. Don't get me wrong, but we're building up to a much cooler historical reveal because you get to Heimdall Cathedral after you're able to save Elise with the help of Patrick Higharms and with the help of Vita Clotilde and Alphen. Let's not forget about Princess Alphen. But you're able to save all of them, and you get to the cathedral, and you meet up with Thomas Lysander, the Second Dominion, the Partitioner, and Rose, the grandmother and the elder of the Hexen clan, and they just lay out the lore to you. So, for all these games, you've been getting bits and pieces of what happened with ancient Zemuria, and I expected we were going to get more of that here. But instead, we get more information about 2 more Septarians. So we knew about the one in Liberl, of course, the Liber Arc. We knew about the one in Crossbell, the tree, right? Mirage. And so here we get Earth and Fire. And they were 2 giants. And that's already super cool, right? But then they just lay it out. Everything about the wars that have happened, everything that's going on, about how it was mankind's greed for the Great One, the combination of Earth and Fire, that has led to the Curse, which is basically just this overwhelming desire to bring about war because this Septarian that was created, the Great One, is the Septarian of Steel. So it wants war. And when I first heard about the Curse, I was like, I don't want this to be like Fire Emblem Radiant Dawn, where you just have like a curse that forces people to act a certain way. But the curse is still brought on by greed. We can see those that are completely not compelled by it at all. In the scene where after things have gone really bad and the curse is released, you get some people that are trying to warn everyone else. The nun that knows Ash, I can't remember her name right now. Starts with an O, but then you have others that are ready to fight already, that are decrying Calvert and getting ready for this huge war that Osborne is pushing for because he wants to send the whole world into glorious combat. But you also get to see like Olaf Craig and Neidhart, who seemingly are unaffected by it, most likely because their wills are strong enough. And so it still relies on you giving in to greed, right? It's not, you can't just go, well, the curse made me do it. Because Ash, for example, wanted answers. Yes, the curse made him pull the trigger, but he only got to that point because he wanted answers. And so, yes, the curse was the problem, but it still boils down to being a choice that you make that leads you on that path. And especially after what we get with Lecter and his dad, there's so much to talk about, man. The stuff with Ash hits really hard. Hey, the guy who caused what happened to Ash did it because the curse got him with his greed and his desire to be better and be higher up and have more social status that may have come from a good place, right? It may have come from wanting to take care of his family originally, but it was twisted to then he caused the destruction of Hamel, which orphaned Ash, which caused Ash to give in to the curse as well because of his anger, and led to him shooting the Emperor. But I wrote down a line because, man, this line is good. So I wrote it down, and let me scroll back up here to it. That'll also remind me of anything else in my docket here that I've forgotten to talk about yet. We haven't talked about Crow yet. We're going to get there. There is a line from the Emperor that is absolutely amazing. And it is just the moment when Ash is about to shoot Gileath Osborne. He's prepared, he's ready. And the Emperor says, "Don't shoot him, it won't work." Or Ash Carbide, was it? "Don't shoot him, it won't work. You should shoot me instead." And Chancellor's like, "What?" And the Emperor says, "I don't want this young man's actions to be wasted." So Ash shoots him. But you have this curse, right? Where because people want power, it wants to force a war, which will, I guess, give more power, right? The Septarians are things that I don't think we could ever truly understand what they are and what they want, right? We have these ideas of what they are, but man, they are like so beyond regular people. And so Osborne is attempting to force this one to work the way he wants it to work. And I don't think that's necessarily going to work out, but we're going to find out in the next game. Because boy, am I excited to get to it. But final chapter. You gather your allies, you go to fight. And because all of your enemies are working together now, it is seemingly impossible odds. You have the Red Constellation, Zephyr, you have Ouroboros, which has the Stall Ritter and Campanella the Fool outside guarding this area. And everybody shows up to help, basically. Agate's there. Oh, we haven't even talked about Agate and Tita yet. Tita's there. You have all of the branch campuses there, except for Aurelia Le Guin, who it seems like has made her own army, the Weissman army, or I don't know what all's going on there. That's going to be in Cold Steel 4, I'm sure. But they take Ash away? I'm curious, but don't tell me, because I'm going to play it for myself. But everybody's there, and they're all getting ready to fight. And then the Partitioner and Rose give you a way in, and you go in. And what I love most about this is that in every Cold Steel game up to this point, you've gotten into the final dungeon, you've gotten into a big fight with one of the big bosses, right? And then you've beaten them, and then somebody else has had to come in and handle them for you so that you can move on, right? McBurn in 2, the Radiant Blade Master had to come in. You're fighting Blue Blanc, and you're fighting Campanella. Here comes Tuval and Olivier. And in 3, you get in there, and you get to Leanne Sandlot, the Steel Maiden, and McBurn, and you fight them. And then Gaius, Emma, and Laura are like, "Hey, we'll handle this. Move on. Go ahead." Because now the old Class 7 has gotten strong enough that they can fight their own battles. They don't need somebody to come save them, you know? And it's just a really powerful moment of like, yeah, we can get down here. We can go save Altina. We don't need other people to help us now. We can do it. And so you work your way down, and each time people break off so that you can keep moving forward. And man, some of the dialogue here is we haven't even talked about Sarah and Sharon's backstories. Okay, we'll get there. We're going to get into the other characters in a minute. I probably should have done all characters first and then story, but they're all so tied in together. And there's so much to talk about, and I'm sorry this is so rambly. I'm just really excited because I really love this game. So, you finally get down to the bottom, right? Oh, Millium. You finally get down to the bottom, and they're going to sacrifice Altina to be able to spread this plague, this curse, to bring about the end of the world. And we don't know what exactly the end goal there is yet, because Osborne won't say. And before all of that can resolve, because you go to try and fight the magic beast first so that you can capture it and so they can't kill it, right? Before all that can resolve, in comes the Red Wings, the courageous, right? Coming to save the day. Olivier's on there, Taval's on there, the Radiant Blade Master's on there. They're going to carve a way through and make sure everybody can come back you up, and then it's all going to be okay. And then Osborn has Black Albric set off the charges that were planted on the Courageous and blows up the Courageous in front of everybody. Most likely, though we don't know that for sure yet, and don't spoil it for me in the comments, please. Most likely killing at least one, if not all three of those characters. Victor S. Arcade, the Radius Blade Master, Toval Randoneur, and Olivier Lindheim, Prince Olivert himself. My favorite character in this series. And before you can even really recover from that blow, right? Altina is about to be killed by Cedric so that she can become the sword to fight the magic beast and kill it. And she escapes of her own power. She doesn't need anybody to save her. She can save herself, right? Because the magic beast is about to kill Reen, and who's in Valimar. And so she jumps in to try and save him, which would have gotten herself killed, right? Because that's what she wants. She wants to become the sword that can save everybody because she thinks it's the only way she can protect everybody. And then Milliam, who had been playing along and pretending that she was on the Ironblood side, leaps forward and dies to protect her sister and to protect her friends. It becomes the sword. And Reen, who we already knew had a complex about protecting everybody, right? Who we know has carried this whole game, the guilt of not being able to protect Crow, of not being strong enough, and Crow not being able to be there with them, right? He has carried that guilt this entire game. When he sees Milliam die, it breaks something in him. And he goes berserk and is taken over by the curse and just slaughters this thing, which spreads the curse to everything else. The plan's complete. So then the other Magic Knights come in, and we'll talk about that in a minute, including Gileath Osborn's Magic Knight. And then Gileath Osborn grabs Reen and says it's time to go finish the work. And then the game ends. We cliffhang right there. And so, like, when I finished FC, right? When I finished Sky FC, I said that I thought that was the toughest cliffhanger in this series. And then when I finished Cold Steel 2, I said that I think that cliffhanger was tougher, right? Because Reen's being sent away and everybody else is going to get captured or have to fight their way out. This is by far the harshest cliffhanger in the series so far. You don't get any resolution really at all. It's just, game's done. Come back for Cold Steel 4. Which is what I'm going to do immediately after I finish this review. I love it. I love it so much. I love everything about this final chapter. It's so good. I really enjoyed playing through this game. Now I have a couple more characters I want to talk about before we wrap this up. Because I know some people might say, well, Reen going berserk there doesn't make any sense. Yes, it absolutely does in my mind, because Reen has been beating himself up for not being able to save Crow. So let's talk about Crow, right? Am I upset that he's back? Well, first off, no, because Crow is incredible and I love Crow. But also because, yes, he's been brought back, but we don't know exactly how yet. We don't know exactly what ramifications that has yet. Much in the way that Osborn survived being shot because he didn't have a heart and he's not really human anymore because he gave his heart to Reen. We don't really know yet what it means that Crow is back, but it's not that, for me, when you resurrect a character, it needs to mean something, right? And it does here because he doesn't resurrect as Crow. He resurrects without any of those memories at first, and he only gets them back because of the release of the curse, which seems to do something to the boss of Zephyr and to Leanne Sandlot as well. There's something there that she wanted this to happen for as well. So we don't yet know what the ramifications of that are, right? But also, since he didn't start as Crow, and he wasn't resurrected immediately around our characters, they still have all that time of him being dead that they have mourned him for that is allowed for character growth, right? It's not just, well, we kill off the character and then 5 minutes later he's back. It may seem like, well, it's just the next game, but it's been a lot of time for our characters that this weight has been on them. So I don't really care if Crow's back now. I mean, I do. I'm glad he's back, but it doesn't bother me. I don't think that every dead character should be brought back, and I think that Trails has already proven that it's not going to do that because we don't have Louvet back anywhere. And I should remind you, spoilers for Sky the Third, when he shows up there, it's not really him, right? So I think in many ways, Azure Siegfried moving forward could be very interesting. And if it is just Crow, I'm fine with that. But if there's something else going on there, I'm fine with that too. Am I upset that Arena's Arena's the chairman. Arena's husband, Elisa's dad, is back. No, not really, because apparently he was part of the gnomes. And he was Professor Lumen, because of course he was. You just can't have a professor of the Trail series and then be a nice person, right? Man. Wiseman being Professor Alba, and then you have Joachim Gunter, and then you have Professor Lumen. You can't. We're 0 for 3, huh? Yeah, no, I didn't trust Lumen as soon as we met him because of those other two, and I'm glad that I was proven correct. No, I think that the choices that were made to bring those characters back, it's okay. Especially like the boss of Zephyr. I can't remember his name for the life of me because everybody just calls him Boss. But he's a really fun character, the Jaeger King. He's a blast, you know? And I think that him coming back adds more to Fee than it detracts. So I'm super fine with it. And I'm very excited to see what they're going to do with them moving forward. Because we have 6 of the Awakeners now gathered together. What of the 7th? Character stuff too I want to hit on. Michael Irving and Claire both have a really good arc in this game. Claire is torn between her desire to follow Gileath Osborne and knowing that it's not the right thing to be doing. That the sacrifices that he is demanding aren't okay, but also that he's brought her through so much. How can she abandon him now? And it really works out really interestingly with her interactions with Reen and the stuff about her brother and the Revolt Company and everything that ties in together there. It's very good, and it makes you feel really bad for her when she's put into positions where she doesn't have a choice. Because you get upset for her almost of like, Osborne shouldn't be making her do this. That's not okay. He should make Rufus, who doesn't have a soul, do this. Man, Rufus, I would love to get to beat him up. Lecter as well. Lecter is a character that normally is not willing to show how he feels about things, but by the end of the game, he's like, yeah, not too happy about the fact that we kidnapped that girl. Not liking that one bit. My hands are tied here, but hey, if you manage to win, please go save her. And it's like, yeah, man, Lecter's a good guy. He's just working for the wrong person. Or the right person for Osborne's side of it, I guess. But, I really like Lecter as a character. I think it was really interesting that we didn't fight Duvali and Ines and Enea at the end there. Just didn't fight them at all. Didn't fight Campanella again. I think that's nice. I expected to have to fight everybody again, like in CS2. So it was really nice to be able to just skip straight to the big fights, Yeah, I like this game a lot. I think that Prince Cedric is really good. I mean, obviously he's gone too far. He was willing to let both his father and his older brother die if need be, But I really, really like this game. I have very few complaints. The first one being Randy's not really playable, and I really wanted him to be. Especially since towards the end, you get to do a really cool like side activity where you get to use a bunch of your supporting characters in your party, including like Agate, Tita, and Olivier, and Tio. And let me play as Randy too, man. Come on. And then Shara doesn't get to show up at all, even though we're told she's there. And I just would have liked to gotten to see her, I think that would have been nice. But yeah, I love Cold Steel 3. I think that it is an incredible game. My personal rankings at this point would be Sky SC, Trails to Azure, Cold Steel 3, I think. Sky the Third, Trails from Zero, Cold Steel 2, Sky FC, and Cold Steel 1. I think that would be my ranking right now. Yeah, I like this game a whole lot. It might, depending on how the fourth game goes, I might look at some of this. I might look back at some of this and say, man, I don't know. And this game was way longer than I think it necessarily needed to be. I think that the link serves it well because, again, it's 2 games put in one. But I think there are some moments that probably could have been trimmed to make it go a little faster. I think I put 135 hours into this game, which is like, that's a lot more than what I put into I think that is more than I put into the entirety of the Sky trilogy, and it's definitely more than I put into Zero and Azure combined. But I like it still. I think it's a really good game, and I did a bunch of the side activities that I could have skipped because I wanted all the rest of that story. Again, the big takeaway for me in this game is Reen's development, Reen and Altina's relationship, and the way that she grows. The moment when she smiles, I'd take a picture of it because I was like, yep, when she's with Reen on the last day of the festival and she smiles, heck yeah. That was, the game could have ended there and I would have been happy. Wouldn't have made sense, but I would have been happy. But now I have to play 4 to know what's going on. So I'm going to wrap this up. We're 46 minutes in, which I think is the longest so far. But I feel like the Cold Steel 4 one will surpass that. And I still haven't said everything that I kind of wanted to say. Real quick, the Decisive Collision is an incredible background. It's an incredible track. Taking I'll Remember You and making it into a battle theme? Oh, how am I supposed to fight through these tears, man? It's incredible. I love that theme so much. And I think all the music in Cold Steel 3 is really good. This is one of my favorite OSTs in the series. It's really, really good. This game's great. And I think if this game is the example, then Cold Steel 4 will be maybe cracking that top 3 in the way that this one did, which is going to be really crazy because I like Sky SC and Trails to Azure a whole lot. With all that said, though, I've been Trey. This has been The Full Spectrum. Let me know your thoughts about Cold Steel 3 in the comment section down below. Remind me of the things that I forgot to talk about, and I'll respond to you with my opinion on them. And, yeah. I didn't talk about Agate or Tita at all. Okay, real quick. Tita's great. Tita's wonderful. I'm not super sold on Agate and Tita in a relationship, but I don't super have anything against it either. He is a guy that she knows very well, that she's depended on for a long time. She clearly loves him, cares about him. For me, they were read more as siblings in Sky, but I don't necessarily have a problem with it. Sure, whatever. And yeah, I'm excited to see how everything develops. Don't tell me if people that died come back, but I really hope that Olivier's not dead. But we'll see. Anyway, again, let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Let me know your rankings. And until next time, I've been Trey. This has been The Full Spectrum. Remember to always enjoy the full spectrum that Cold Steel 3 has to offer. I almost forgot to mention, but the music box version of the Whereabouts of Light is absolutely beautiful, and I may have cried when that played. It's really good.